This morning, I'm going to look at the first four of the Beatitudes with you. Don't have time for all of them, so I figured we'd look at the first four. So they're called Beatitudes because they're all about blessing. Blessed are. To be blessed is not necessarily to be happy, it's to be fortunate in the eyes of God. And in a culture in which the pursuit of happiness is enshrined as the end and purpose of all life, the idea that someone who is unhappy might in fact be the one who is blessed can be rather scandalizing. So the first, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. What does it mean to be poor in spirit? Well, we live in a complicated world, in a complicated time. We are all walking through a dark forest, not knowing exactly what awaits us or what the best thing is to do at any given moment. This not knowing might feel like a weakness, but this Beatitude says otherwise. If we are aware that we do not have complete knowledge or experience sufficient to deal with our lives and our world, there are a few options open to us. One is we can give up, throw up our hands in despair and say, I don't know, I don't care. But this isn't a very good option, at least in my humble assessment. Another option, there's probably more than just two options, but the other option I'm going to consider today is to lean into the unknown rather than being scared or give up because of the unknown, is to lead into it. And this leads to a state of openness. To lean into the unknown is to open our hearts to the world as one who is open to learn. It is to open our spirits to others and to the divine realm, not knowing what we will find, but willing to look. The one who thinks they already know all they need to know to respond to the world around them, we might call them rich in spirit. This Beatitude doesn't talk to them. We might admire them. We might admire their great self-confidence, but in the view of this Beatitude, they are closed, not open. To be poor in spirit, on the other hand, is to adopt a posture open to experiencing and learning something new and unexpected. And this is something we're only willing to do if we feel that we do not already have the resources that we need, that we're poor in spirit. To be open-hearted and open-minded is a blessed state. You will see that there's actually a theme throughout all the first four of these about openness. So kind of giving away the sermon a little bit there, but it's all about openness. So blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. How does this deal with openness? Well, this Beatitude, like the previous one, invites us to gaze deeply upon the world in which we live. It invites us to look down the streets running through seashells, to turn our gaze to the seashell nation, to let our gaze come upon Vancouver, dwelling for a moment, perhaps on the downtown east side. It invites us to let our gaze and our mind's eye wander throughout Canada, beyond Canada, throughout the rest of the world. It invites us to take a moment to consider the ruins in the Ukraine, the conflict in Palestine, Israel, to dwell and think for a moment on the hunger, the need, the isolation, the orphans, the walls, the hardening of heart, and the cruelty of greed that resides throughout our world. To mourn, therefore, is to be open to the whole world and to let the pain of the whole world touch our souls. It's very tempting to just want to wall off our souls so we don't feel that pain. But this Beatitude suggests that we do otherwise, that we open our hearts to the suffering of the world, to let it touch our hearts, because to do this is to be like God, and it is to be blessed. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Now, the word meek is kind of troubling. It can suggest to us, blessed are the doormats, because they will be walked on. But that's not really what the word means. The word praus, I think, would be better translated as gentle or kind, the opposite of arrogant and mean-spirited. And unfortunately, experience tells us that sometimes religious people are not kind people. Unfortunately, sometimes we look down on other people and consider them as less than because they might have personal problems. They might look differently than we do. They might act differently than we do. Judging people for whatever reason is not kind. It is not gentle. So I have two cats, Chester and Oliver. I think I've mentioned them before. I don't know. But I quickly learned if I try to pat them coming down like this, if they're here and I come down like that, they get freaked out and they'll often run away. Evolutionarily, they've learned to see things as coming down from above as threats. That's where eagles and birds of prey come down from. So if I want to pat them and I don't want them to run away, I have to approach them from below, let them see my hand and come at them from below. And then they won't be freaked out and they won't run away. And I think people are like this. When someone adopts a superior attitude and presumes to approach someone as if from above, we get nervous. I get nervous. We perceive such people as threats. To be kind, to be meek, to be gentle is to approach people from below, as one human being to another human being, not as a superior to an inferior, just as equals. It is as one soul lost in the woods to another soul also lost in the woods. So to be meek is to be open again to the other as yourself, to love another as yourself, as one who is equally important as yourself and is equally valuable as yourself. Therefore, by implication, any ism, racism, sexism, ageism, or any other ism, again, that places us from above is utterly rejected. It is not kind and it is not gentle. And to learn this is to learn the blessing of meekness. The final beatitude that I'm going to look at this morning anyways is, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. Now, this verse can be a turnoff for those of us who've had our fill of ours and others' self-righteousness. Our personal righteousness, my sense of how great I am, how moral I am, quickly and almost always becomes a measuring tool by which I gauge and value the value and merit of others. And so this is antithetical to the previous, the meekness beatitude. The problem is the word righteousness. The word righteousness has meant different things and has had different currency throughout time. There's times when it's been a good thing. Right now, I think it's got pretty low currency. Righteousness is not something that is really appealing. But the word that's translated as righteousness is dikaiosune, which can also be translated as justice. And if we look at it through that lens, then the beatitude changes as if magically in front of our eyes. Rather than encouraging us to be self-righteous, this beatitude is about prompting us to seek the well-being of others, especially those who have been downtrodden or exploited. To seek justice is not to be content with the present systems of imperial domination. It is to be open again and to being able to see the unjust systems and the unjust practices that are all around us. For us, it would mean seeking justice for our Indigenous brothers and sisters, seeking justice for the natural world, protecting it from environmental degradation, and many other issues. But it's less about my own sense of goodness than about trying to right the world of ills and wrongs. So blessed are those who seek justice for all the world, because they are aligned with God, because that is what God is all about. Their hearts are opening to the suffering of the world, and they're willing to do something about it. So these beatitudes are not there to lead us into feeling guilty. There's no guilt in these beatitudes. They're not imperatives. They're not telling us what should be. They're just telling us what is. Rather than guilt, I believe that they present us with an invitation to adopt an open posture to the world in which we live. to learn to live with open hearts towards each other, and to let the pain and struggles of others touch our souls. To be kind, to seek for those things that might make the world a little bit more fair and just for all. To do these things is to drink deeply of our common and shared humanity. It is to let the outside world in, because it is a world where there is much pain and much fear. It is to know that pain and to know that God knows that pain as well. Really, these Beatitudes are just exactly mirrors of what God is doing. God is the poor in spirit, if you will. God is what's the next one? God is the one who mourns. God is the one who's meek. God is the one that hungers and thirsts for justice. So when we do these things, we find ourselves following God. We find ourselves living into the pain of the world and walking hand in hand with each other and with God. And this is life indeed. This is blessing indeed. And may we all be a blessed people. Amen. Amen.